So next we'll cover the pitfalls that myself and Julie have seen and lived with as well throughout cloud assessing and looking at customers' cloud tenants. Now, one of the big pitfalls, and we know this is definitely true throughout the last 18 months as people move quickly to the cloud, but it's not considering the security elements from day one. A really easy one is customers migrating to the cloud straight away for obvious reasons, but not deploying multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication for their staff. So migration's gone quick. Now, the problem that we've seen is trying to implement multi-factor authentication after the event on staff. It becomes a disruption, and then it becomes a negativity about the service that you did in the first place. So I would always say, when you are building that strategy, when you're looking at the tool sets, put security in first, because as an afterthought or as a post implementation, you're going to have more trouble than you would have at the beginning as well. So I definitely managing that consideration security elements has to be the forefront. As also that you download that this data, this infrastructure isn't within your physical boundary as well, it's somebody else's boundary as well. So those security considerations need to be there from the beginning.
Yes, I think on the next point of managing a hybrid environment, I think this is, something that just about every organization has to deal with, unless you're a small startup that's born in the cloud, other than that, everyone's always going to have applications on servers that are not in the cloud. And I think this can become quite a challenge, because sometimes, you have one set of security controls for your on-prem environment, and then you put applications in the cloud. I think sometimes people, forget that, security still has to be considered in that cloud environment, and you can't just kind of trust that anything that you put in the cloud is going to natively meet the same security elements that you have on-prem. So I think it's just that challenge again, as we said, there's ways to make this a little bit easier. You might want to see if, the vendor and solutions that you use on-prem are available in the cloud provider that you're considering. But I think it's making sure, again, that IT security staff plan for in advance having the same level of security controls, both on-prem and in the cloud, because I have seen some issues in the past where big organizations have had a bit of a mission to migrate applications from on-prem into the cloud. And again, in the rush to do that and make sure the application is working, security can often get forgotten about. And again, similar to the first point, becomes a little bit of an add-on, which then becomes, more of a hassle and more of a hindrance. So again, just thinking about the hybrid environment, whether you're going to have the same tools for monitoring on-prem and cloud, or whether you need to go for something different, but perhaps able to manage it through one portal, just an extra consideration.
Yeah, and like the next one, which is a common one, is that your OPEX costs will increase throughout the year, but making sure you have enough wriggle room in your budget to manage those increased OPEX costs throughout the year. It will increase as you introduce more services, as you get used to the service as well, and you migrate more services, that OPEX cost will increase. And on your IT budgets, that can become not damaging, but it can become a problem. So making sure that you've got some wriggle room in your budgets to manage those increased OPEX costs is really important.
Yeah, and then taking the next point around security maintenance, monitoring and auditing, we kind of touched on that before, but this is often a pitfall, because again, people like the simplicity and the quickness of the cloud, but again, with that, you do really need to make sure that you set up the tools to make sure that the security is ongoing, and if there is a breach for any reason, that you're very quickly alerted to that. So I think that is something that needs to be considered from day one, but also from an auditing point of view. As I say again, in some of the sort of highly regulated industries in particular, there might be certain regulations that you need to comply with, and when auditors come in, they will want to see that those services that you're hosting in the cloud still comply with those regulations. So again, any auditing requirements that are required for your industry have to be considered as part of the move to the cloud. And there's lots of tools and services out there that can help with that, but again, sometimes it becomes a bit of an afterthought when people are choosing to migrate their applications into the cloud.
Yeah, cool. And lastly, Julie can talk about this from 4 or 5 weeks at Microsoft, but the pace of change in cloud, in these cloud companies, is massive and far quicker than we really should imagine it as consumers. But as a result of that, we need to, and customers and companies need to keep on top of the pace of change and the changes that are happening within these cloud services, and making sure that any new features and any new products and updates can be verified within your cloud tenant as well, and make sure there's no impact on your services as well. Yeah, I think that's it. Following, again, the cloud vendors, it's their interest to bring out new services all the time, and they are, but keeping on top of that from your organization is really important.